another edition of the Islandstats Sports Show. I'm your host, Earl Basin, and we have a full capacity of co-hosts tonight. We have Jason Ford, better known as Juggling Jay. We have Gary Moreno, who again is calling himself Gaza, and of course, Stacy Babb. I want to say thank you all for joining on this Wednesday night. Obviously, a lot to talk about, and just want to say, first of all, Gary, you missed the time last week that your mate wanted to have a little go, of course, but as I said, the game ended 1-1, so all square, love and war, and let's move on.
No, we're
Jason,
not moving on.
give
We're not
you
moving
the
on.
opportunity to have what you wanted to say to Gary last week. I'm going to give you a minute. Go, because I'm going to give Gary a minute
The
too.
league is over. The league is over. I've lost all my. It's over. Let's talk about marbles next, please.
Obviously, Gary, you have to have some say to Juggler because the two teams drew 1-1.
Man, I agree with Juggler. Let's just go back during COVID when everybody was looking at the marble racing. That was more entertaining, frankly. Got to agree with him there.
Well, of course, we all know why that's been said, and I'm pretty sure if I went to Stacey, she'll say the same thing because Liverpool won the league, and everybody's now.
I thought she was Arsenal.
She is Arsenal, but she would say the same thing as you two guys are saying. Let's go back to doing and saying anything else. So, but yeah. let's really move on. Last week, the Bermuda Cricket Board announced that the league cricket season will get underway on July 11th. We are some 11 days away from that, using four grounds, that being St. David's County Cricket Club, St. George's Cricket Club, Whitehill Field, and Somerset Cricket Club. Obviously, their plan is to have 20 matches, 3 on a day at one field and whatever on the other fields. But Jason, looking at what they're planning to do to get some cricket, you were with me when we were talking with the president of the Bermuda Cricket Board during that first coaching session at PHC. Where do you see it going?
It's an attempt, and I think trying to get back to some type of sports on the island, I think that's best they can do. And with all the restrictions that are put in place, it's going to be a period of trying to get used to these restrictions. I've heard, we've both heard players complain for numerous reasons, but I think at the end of the day, Earl, realistically, if you want to play, you're going to play.
Gary, looking at it, how do you envision a shortened season, but a local season, just playing 2020? Because that's what they've indicated that's what they're going to do.
Mate, frankly, I think that's the best thing for the league right now. I don't think there are many players that can concentrate not even up to 50 overs locally at the moment. There are no Gennaro Tuckers. I mean, an abundance of them. There's no abundance of any of the Smiths and such. So T20, I think, is the best option for them right now. It'll also be entertaining. It'll give the supporters, the fans on the island something to do. They will come out. They will have a good time. They'll watch the guys come out and hit some boundaries, wrap it up quickly in 20 overs, and everybody can go home and have a good chuckle and have a good time at the pitch. They won't have to be there all day. But I think it's the best thing for the league. It's the best option for them right now.
Stacey, as a player, you played in for Bermuda, women's cricket and so forth. Looking at the format 2020, would that have been something that you guys would have really enjoyed when you were in the field?
Absolutely. That's pretty much what they utilized when it was first starting out to get us, acclimatized to cricket and the 50 overs. 2020 definitely more entertaining, and like Gary said, with the ability for concentration of players and having that mental fitness is extremely important. And at this point, I don't think majority of them do have. So 2020 is the best to reintroduce the level of concentration that cricket actually needs to them.
Gary, we see the West Indies are now over in the UK getting ready for their July 8th first Test match. Lot going on with them. How do you think they should approach, especially the first match, as a team, being at the ground, being in the hotel, being allowed to train in the cycle that they've been allowed to train it, and just all the words around the Caribbean? How do you think they should approach this first Test match?
And just go there and play cricket. It's as simple as that. Go out there, assert yourself, play a good game of cricket, and hopefully beat England. I mean, there's a lot of foolishness, a lot of talk about, oh, they shouldn't have gone. Why shouldn't they have gone? They had the option to not go. In fact, some of the players, Bravo, decided that they weren't going to go. A couple others decided that they weren't going to go. They said for personal reasons, they had young families and such, and we can't fault them for that. That was their decision. But the ones who chose to go, just go out and play cricket. It's as simple as that.
Juggler, looking at the England team, how do you think they should approach it? Because they're in a bit of a transition as right now as well, aren't they?
Most definitely. I mean, even with the exclusion of their captain, who's on taking a leave, as him and his wife are expecting a second child, so having Stokes fill in as the captain for this series for the first Test is going to be interesting in itself, because even with his own career, it's been a maturation process. Obviously, coming into the side, very mature, getting in trouble on and off the field. But now you're seeing he's going to lead this England side. And obviously coming off just him alone with his exploits in the Ashes, I'm pretty sure he's very confident. But they are well aware of what happened, when the West Indies go to England, especially in this format. So they have a team. They're rated still in the top 3 teams in the 2020 format in the world. And they would expect to be there. So it's going to be interesting for the West Indies. With this squad, a lot of names, if you're not from the West Indies directly, there's a lot of names you might be saying, okay, who's that person? Who's that person? But this is the time to, stand up being accounted for. Like Gary said, go and play cricket and just show what you're worth.
Stacey, looking at the West Indies team, they've obviously taken extra players in the event that someone comes down with COVID, but they have a nucleus of young players. When you were involved, that was kind of the women's cricket team, but it all kind of fell by the wayside. But what would the emphasis be for the West Indies and their young players?
Giving them that opportunity for exposure, and like was mentioned just now, to give that opportunity as well for them to prove themselves, and all in all, give a better competition for those existing players that I guess have become comfortable in the position on the West Indies cricket team. So all in all, it works out well for the West Indies cricket team when you're having that international competition.
Gary, it was revealed over the weekend that Dave Cameron is seeking to become the president of ICC, and I'm glad I'm putting this to you because you have the ear of what they would have been talking about throughout the Caribbean. One of his things that he talked about when talking about wanting to become the president is the influence in which the Indian president has on the game globally now. He feels as if 3 teams or 3 countries are actually running cricket themselves. First of all, what do you think of him running as the ICC president, and what do you think of his chances?
The man made a shambles of West Indies cricket. Does he think he really stands a chance of ousting Mr. Manmohan as the president of the ICC? He is asked for the support of the West Indies, and I think he's going to get the support of the West Indies. If I'm not mistaken, he has to have the support of 2 or 3 full ICC members in order to become president, but I don't see that happening. And Mr. Manmohan, the president of the ICC at the moment, is well entrenched in that position. He has the support, and whether Mr. Cameron agrees and whether Mr. Cameron is right in saying that 2 or 3 teams control cricket right now, and I am of that opinion as well. There's nothing he can do to change that at the moment. He failed as the president of the West Indies Cricket Board, and I can't see him getting the support that he's going to need to become president of the ICC. He'd be lucky if he gets the vote of the West Indies Cricket Board, and even though I think he will get it, I think it's a big ask. I don't see him getting the support that he would need outside of the region to become president of the ICC. I don't see it happening.
Stacey, let me ask you, because when you were playing, obviously there's a lot of talk, especially in the Americas region. When we talk about opportunities, there weren't many afforded for women's cricket back then. But if you look at it now, you have the Women's World Cup that is really going global last year. What do you think the leadership of the ICC really needs?
The leadership of the ICC definitely needs somebody that sees both male and women's cricket as a priority. Definitely, when you look at some of the women's cricket, they do play better strategy-wise, better cricket than some of these male teams. The only difference is, of course, the power and strength in certain areas, well, most areas. So it's definitely a leader that sees value in both aspects of the game, because at the end of the day, if you promote women's cricket, you'll have a bit more buy-in. Example, with the Argentinian women's cricket team, most of those players play for the field hockey teams, and then the coach just introduced them to cricket, and that's how they began to love it. Same with the Brazilians. So if you want to expand your sport and the importance of it, especially when everybody's considering the financial gain, it's very important to have a president that sees the value in men's and women's cricket.
Juggle, what do you think about that? Listening to that, do you think that carries a lot of weight, carries some merit?
Most definitely. I mean, if you just take a page out of the FIFA's mandate when it comes to, and even in the NBA in America, it's all about growing the game to the four corners of the earth. It's too many times that it's just been restricted in a certain area of the world. But anybody coming into the game now, we're looking, number one, that the whole world now is your oyster, especially with the media. A lot of times you couldn't get the games on TV. Now, obviously, with streaming being very valuable to not only to the sports, but also to the advertisers, the sponsorship. And we know that plays a big part of the relationship. So you're going to have somebody who comes in, obviously, what's already been said before, as respecting the men's and the women's game, but also how to bring the sponsorship into it and to grow the game globally. Because remember, I mean, we keep talking about it. They wanted to get into the Olympics, the game get into the Olympics. You need this global appeal.
Gary, they're talking about having cricket for the Olympics. So Jason just mentioned it, going to the 10-10 format. We saw that Vinci 10-10, if that came off, and I think they put together a well-organized tournament. Can you see that in the Olympics? And all in all, will that kind of put a damper on the game itself? Because 10-10 is a completely rush. We know what 2020 does is a rush, but 10-10?
I'll be the first to tell you, I love Test cricket. I am not a big fan of T20, and 10-10 I think is the only option that they're going to have if they're going to introduce the game to the Olympics. You're going to need something that's fast-paced. You're going to need something that's going to be attractive to the audiences, to the fans. And if you want to make the game more attractive and bring more countries into the fold, the US in particular, where the big advertising is, and hence the reason that our friend who was locked up, Mr. Stanford, that was one of the reasons he came into cricket with the T20 format and was getting advertisers to come in. That's where the big money is. And that market, once you can penetrate the American market, then you're set. That's where the big money is. That's where players make the big money. Even though with the IPL and so on, we do see players making what they consider big money from what they would have been making before by cricket standards. But when you get into the American market and the level of advertising that takes place there, to have your brand associated with a successful league, with a successful team, with a successful event. Those organizations put out millions and millions of dollars. So if you can play a 10-10 format and attract young Americans to the game with their baseball heritage, I think it'll go a long way in making the game more attractive, but it'll have to be that 10-10 format. As much as I wouldn't like it, as we say in the Caribbean, is book cricket. Just swing a bat, and if you hit, you hit. If you miss, well, you know what happens. But it'll have to be the route that they're going to have to take if they want to introduce the game to the Olympics.
I think in the America's stance, or in America's terminology, they have very few Americans actually playing. They're made up of Asian and Caribbean players, and right now the Asians are in the administration rule, and I think that will be the problem with trying to get into that American market, because they're still seen predominantly as outsiders trying to get into the sport in the USA. So we'll have to see. We'll stay tuned into that, and obviously once things move forward, we'll look to see what happens. So we know that the 10-10 is in the Commonwealth Games. Women will be playing in the Commonwealth Games in 2022 in Birmingham, in the UK. So if that is a success, I'm pretty sure we can see things moving steadily forward, looking at the 2028 Olympics for 10-10. But we're going to take a commercial break, and when we come back, we'll have more of the Islandstats Sports Show right here on Islandstats.com. Saturday, the Bermuda Football Association, with the Premier and Sports Minister on hand at Cabinet Grounds, held the trophy presentations for the division winners for the 2019-2020 season. Obviously, in the Premier Division, the North Village Rams were crowned the champions. They had a remarkable season with Kenny Thompson being back. Gary, you're a big Kenny fan. Looking at what he was able to do with that team, how did you see him make that transition?
My brother, class is class. Wherever you put the man, he's going to be successful because he's a player's coach. He knows how to motivate individuals and get them to gel as a team. So anywhere Kenny Thompson goes, he's going to be successful. People say that he tends to attract just big players or the best players. I don't always agree with that. I think that Kenny has proven time and time again he has what it takes to build a winning team. As I said, he knows how to motivate his players and how to get them to play for him. And they do so willingly. I mean, I've been to training sessions where I've watched guys on the pitch and he makes it so simple for them. They pick it up and they do exactly what he asks of them. And they're willing to do more. They're willing to give that extra oomph, if you can refer to it as that. Go the extra mile for him to do what it takes to be successful, and he's gone to North Village, and in one season he's made them champions. You can't argue with that.
In the first division, it was the St. George's Colts and Devonshire Colts sharing the honors after St. George's were unable to play their final game due to COVID-19. They were 1 point behind Devonshire Colts, who had completed their season, and in the ruling, the Bermuda Football Association declared them co-champions. Jason, these two teams will be in the Premier Division next season. What do you think will be their biggest challenges?
Like, biggest challenge every year is getting players, getting quality. Once you move up to the next league, to the next level, the games can be a bit quicker. And with these squads, you got to make sure you have a deep squad because, one thing we know, especially when it comes to amateur sports, most teams start out with probably a 16 to 18 man squad beginning of the season, preseason. But once guys don't make that squad in the first couple of games, the numbers start to dwindle. And if you don't get the results, a couple of good results early in your campaign, it could go bad really, really fast. So it's going to be interesting. I believe, Earl, is there 3 teams going down next year?
3 teams will go down, yes.
So there's going to be a fight. It was a battle this year. So there's going to be a fight. I mean, congratulations to North Village and also to these 2 teams. What got them over the line for them to be champions, especially when you're in a league, is consistency. And that's what you're going to need, whether, at least getting something for your away games, but at least protecting your home field. And that's in any league, you got to protect your home field. So it's going to be interesting because North Village didn't really do much difference. I mean, Kenny had some buy-in with some of the players. Didn't really do much different. The biggest difference in that North Village side this year is that consistency at the goalkeeper position. As we know, last year, Pierre Smith and a few others were, just going in between, as you say, going in between the sticks and just hope you could block something. But you saw Robin Hood be inconsistent. Once again, they were having inconsistency with goalkeeper, seeing that Antoine Russell was going to go for a few games this year and injuries that they were suffering. And obviously with PAC with a very, very young side. So coming up, you got to think now, they won a lot of games last year. What happens when you don't win your first 2 or 3? Do you still have the buy-in from the players? And that's going to be interesting to see what happens.
Stacey, next generation Onions were crowned the under-13 champions. I know you work with a lot of youth groups and all, but just looking at the program that over there at ABC football, how do you think that they're able to mold these young men and get them to play such consistent football at a young age?
Is with the consistency as coaches as well. Given those players from 6, 7 years old, that understanding of the format that they basically play, the shape that they play, and the reasons why they have basically their tactical and technical training sessions. That's very important. So consistency there. And that's basically what a couple of clubs across the island are missing, is the consistency in the coaches, the consistency in the training sessions as well, and the elevation of their training sessions. You can have weeks on of the same session with no growth and understanding of the progress in the game, teaching the 3 phases pretty much when you have possession of the ball, when you lost possession of the ball, and then the other team has possession. There's such things that are extremely important. And that team right there, you had those players since they were, like I said, 9, 10, 11. So they're familiar with each other. They're familiar with what style of play they need to play, and they're familiar with each player's personalities, strengths, and weaknesses. So that's very important as well.
When we look at the next team, and that's the Warwick Archers with Richard Todd and the group, Gary, you watched a lot of young football until your son went away to school, but looking at these young men, Bermuda has a bright future when it comes to football, doesn't it?
Earl, Bermuda has an amazing future when it comes to youth football. I mean, when Stacey was talking about the young gentleman on the next generation Onions, you guys have to understand that the man at the helm is the god of Bermuda football, Andrew Bascom. I love Kenny to death, but Andrew's on a totally different plane, and the things that he gets young players to do, and I could speak from what I saw him do with my son. I'll tell you, when I took my son to play football with Andrew Bascom, I said, look, boy can't kick a ball, but he loves the game. Andrew said, none of them could play football. It's my job to teach them to play football. And my son has captained every team he's ever played on ever since. And he's going to be captaining international players when he goes back to school. And I think that's all down to Andrew Bascom and what he's instilled in him. And I say that to say that Andrew, Kenny Thompson, these guys have done such a remarkable job with young players in this island. Just look at the number of kids who are overseas playing football. Look at the programs they've come through. And some might say, oh, it's not because they didn't contribute to the clubs. They went through Andrew Bascom and Kenny Thompson. But these guys have proven they have a winning and a successful formula. I look at a young man by the name of Jai Pitt. D1 schools are fighting over themselves to get to that young man. There's another one, Najee. I'm not sure of Najee's surname. Astwood. D1 schools are tripping over themselves to get to that young man. They've all come out of the Bermuda system. Bermuda kids, I remember going on a tour with some kids to Spain one year. And skill for skill, those Spanish kids couldn't keep up with the Bermudians. What the Spanish kids had, they were more technically advanced. They knew what positions to be at during free kicks and the such dead ball situations and so on. But the Bermuda players were extremely skillful. They were extremely fast. They understood the game. And that has continued. And now we're beginning to see the young Bermudian player evolve technically. And I'm telling you, if you think that what we saw during the Gold Cup was anything to go by, the next crop of Bermuda players coming up, they're going to be something to challenge. They're going to be something for us to go out and look at. Mark my word, the young Jai Pitts, the young Najee Astwoods, there's another young man who is in training. He's over in England. I think he's another Jai as well. These guys, I mean, they're going to be Jared. What's Jared's name? Jared Richardson. I call him Jaredinho. These little fellas are amazing. Cleon Scotland's son, Marcus. Another one. When you see these little boys play football, let me not say little boys. When you see these young men play football, because they're all bigger and stronger than me now. They all used to call me Uncle Gary. Now they all have bass in their voice and they call me Gary. So you look at these young men play football and the level that they're at, having started here in Bermuda, for them to be selected to play on teams, even school teams, and to be constantly starting, it speaks volumes for what is being done here in Little Bermuda. And I don't think that Bermudians recognize what is being produced here. And it's time that, and I'll go back to what you and I always talk about, Earl. It's time for government, despite COVID or whatever, to start investing in sport, and particularly youth sport in this country.
Yeah. The final trophy handed out on Saturday was that to the PHC Zebras under 17 team. Jason, your club, you've watched this club, the highs and the lows, and these guys have been winning together, or been playing consistently together since they were under 11s. Is that a strength of the program, that they've been able to keep such a young team together throughout and still have guys go away to school?
Yeah, I mean, that's something that they have took pride in, not only on the field, but off the field. Over the week, we saw a promotion. You might remember the name Kevin Richards, the Big Joe, just being promoted in the insurance, I believe, the insurance world.
Yeah.
So they take pride in that, not just on the field, but off the field. And now when you're starting to see a lot of these players like Omar, Shakir, and a lot of these guys who used to be, great players for the club, to see how well they're doing off the field, for the youngsters that are coming through. A lot of these guys, they're also coaches. It's one thing PAC always takes pride in is actually having a lot of their senior players actually coaches all the way down to the peewees, as we'll call them. So that family atmosphere, everybody's happy for everybody, and there's always encouragement. And if you notice, PAC, when it comes to every transfer season, it's not much.
Yeah.
And they have a strict, very strict to come into the PAC squad. So that bodes well also for their youth, because we think, and I'm talking for PAC, we think we have a good academy, what we call academy, kids coming through. So if we're always going to be bringing other players in from other clubs, then what are we saying about our own academy? We don't trust our academy. We don't trust our players coming through. And Errol, year after year after year, we've had many kids go off away to school, and we're competitive. I mean, we don't win it every year. We're not going to win it every year, but we are pushing players through. And once again, this is just all the players and all the coaches that have came before. It's just a pipeline.
We had a young man, Cole Hall, signed with Radcliffe. He's been with the club for a little while now. But speaking with the coach, I've done an interview with the coach and the organization that had come to Bermuda to do a ID camp that Cole was a part of, and this is another stepping stone. But one of the first things the coach said was he was really impressed with how Cole handles himself and what the possibilities that they see in him that they can get out of him. Left-footed, got pace, got the ability to want to learn. There's still some learning to do in the game, but when you hear an English coach giving compliments of a Bermuda player and a young player, it's kind of enlightening, because it would encourage the next youngster to want to emulate something that somebody their age or close to them that they would have played against maybe a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, that they can get to that level if they pay attention as well. But when you start seeing that, because Stacey, you touch a lot of young people as being a teacher, trying to mold them and get them to understand that they need to learn the basics first. And I know Gary talked about the Kennys, the Andrews, and the Richard Torts and the guys about getting them to do stuff that they enjoy and making it fun. Is that something that we're seeing in the education department as far as getting guys not just to play, but to do the basics?
Yeah, one of the basics that we basically teach and reinforce especially is just basic manners and how to conduct yourself with other people. Also how to conduct yourself in moments where you might get frustrated with other people, conflicts and such. Those basic human skills is what we try to teach, because at the end of the day, if you have basic manners, you know how to solve your own conflicts in a respectful manner, a lot of things will pretty much come your way. Life will become a little easier. The sporting realm, of course, we have extraordinary amounts of talented young individuals, male and female, throughout this island. But the opportunity for the exposure, consistent exposure to certain sports that they might be talented in, that's where it pretty much falls apart. And that's where a couple of our society has fallen apart. They've been talented individuals, but either their home life hasn't provided an opportunity for them to have a positive outlet, or they haven't had that consistent person in their lives teaching them about basic manners, how to deal with conflicts, and how to stay encouraged in their endeavors, which, as we see from the society of group of kids, that pretty much the social aspect is missing, the basic manners are missing, the home life are missing. And then you have another group of our society that pretty much their parents or have they have positive adults around them that are reinforcing the basic manners. There's also skills that take them further.
Jay, we saw over the weekend, Nakeem Wells finally back in the net again, but unfortunately, Bristol's lost 2 games on the trot. They're falling off the pace of that playoff spot. Although the 13th, they're only 3 points away from that final playoff spot. But time with only 7 games remaining, and the rut kind of setting in, time's running out, isn't it?
Most definitely. I mean, I watched that game from start to finish the other day, and I was sort of pretty disappointed, really. They just look tired. They got outran. The youngster ended up being the man of the match. He just outran everybody. He out-hustled everybody. He got to every loose ball. I mean, Nakeem looked like he was, he was obviously the effort was there, and that's how they actually got the goal. It was actually, a rebound that he was able to get to before the other players.
Well, he's been not training as much because he's been carrying a injury that they're trying to protect. So that could be part of it.
Exactly, but he's been taking some slams because he got hit pretty hard the other day too. No, it's gonna be interesting now because we also in the Premier League, it's so many games in a short amount of time, and if a player is, like you said, carrying an injury, how do you manage it? I was wondering how the drinks break was going to help teams and also hinder teams. And I saw it even the other day. Okay, yes, you might have the drink break at that 22 and a half, 23 minute mark. Mm-hmm. But sometimes you might have the momentum.
Yeah.
You're on top of a team. And that momentum breaking, that's how they end up scoring right after a break. So it's going to be interesting going the next couple of games. I think they've got the next 2 games will basically decide if they're going to be able to make it to the playoffs.
Yeah. Gary, we have 2 players, one playing in Sweden, one playing in Iceland. Willie Clemens is in Willie Clemens and Jair Parfitt-Williams. Obviously, still young, still learning their trade, but taking the opportunity to go over to places where when we were coming up, we didn't even know they had leagues in these places. But it must be some sort of challenging for them. Language barrier plus the style of play. You think they can as young men handle themselves in these new places?
They wouldn't be there if the coaches, the clubs didn't think that they could, Earl. These guys have the opportunity to excel, to prove themselves, to market themselves. And I think that they're going to give a good account of themselves. Having this opportunity is something that would probably come once in a lifetime. Not everybody gets the opportunity to play professional football. Going back to Andrew Bascom, he often tells kids, if you're going to become a professional, you're going to become a professional. There's nothing you could do to change that. But use your football to get an education. And these guys, they've probably done both. I think, if I'm not mistaken, in the case of Willie Clemens, I think that's how it went for him.
Yes.
But again, they have the opportunity to play professional football. I look at the kid Donowa. What's his first name? Justin Donowa. The guy's a brain. He went to one of the so-called Ivy League schools. He went to Dartmouth, plays really good football. And look at him now. He has his degree, so he has something to fall back on. But coming back to what we were talking about originally, excuse me, these guys they've been selected to go to those places to play because, like I said, the club sees something in them. And if they believe in themselves, and as I'm sure they do because we saw what they did during the recent tournament here in the Caribbean, they are going to do well. They're going to excel. They're going to become acclimatized very quickly because they want it. And that is half the battle won there. If you really want it, you're going to go out there, you're going to chase it, and you're going to do well. You're going to give a good account to yourself. You're going to do yourself proud. You're going to do Bermuda proud. And you're going to have other people coming here to look for more Bermudians. And I think we saw it in the case of Cole Hall. And there's another young man that I think we need to pay attention to, Janai Steve. Yeah. He's been out there training with Peter Ricard. And Peter Ricard is another coach we need to give a lot of praise to. He's been doing a lot for young Bermudians. Of course, he's into futsal and stuff, but he does a lot of training with young Bermudians, not only out there in England, but when he comes here. And Janai Steed is going to be training with Owen Coyle, who is, you know, he's no slouch. He's been with Bristol City, I think Bolton Wanderers, if I'm not mistaken, Burnley. So he has some pedigree, and the fact that he is taking Janai Steed, and I train with him a live-in camp for, I think, 1 week or so. That speaks volumes. So again, Bermuda, producing players that the rest of the world is interested in. We need to keep an eye on that. We're doing something well here, and we need to stick with it.
Yeah. Well, we had the English clubs had to put out their player list for the 2020-2021 season, and we all know that Jonte Smith's contract, which was only until the end of the season, that had to be released. He will have some talks with the club as well as other clubs who would be interested in him. We had Nathan Trott retained by West Ham United. They'll obviously be looking to bring him in at some point for goalkeeping. And we had Kane Critchlow retained by Watford for their upcoming season as well. So again, Gary, to your point, we do have a lot of talent that started out on this island and is taking the English game and the game around the world by storm. And all we do is hope that guys remember that they are the start of something and looking for the next generation to come through and improve on what they're doing. So we wish them all well. Obviously, girls of the game, sometimes as a defender, it's a bit harder, but it is what it is. So, we'll keep up to date with guys, how they're progressing, and hopefully it all works out well for everyone, and we see more Bermudians playing regular football, no matter where. We know that Zico Lewis and Charleston Battery, their USL season is scheduled to start on July 11th, but we'll have more as it gets closer to when they plan to actually start. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a commercial break, and we'll be back with more Islandstats Sports Show. Well, folks, let's get a look at what's going on throughout the Caribbean from our reporters in the Caribbean.
Hi, Earl. So good to hear from you for yet another week. Blessings all the way from Barbados over to Bermuda. We are COVID-19 free in Barbados, but sports is still very slow in terms of resuming to some level of normalcy. Of course, you can imagine that we're still very cognizant that COVID-19 is in the environment, the global environment. We're going to reopen to international traffic come July the 1st. So therefore, we have to be still very cautious as to how we resume our normal lives as we know it. So sporting federations and associations have have really been taking their time in terms of how they reopen and how they actually conduct their sport, what we call post-COVID. We're still not sitting down on our laurels and thinking that we're past it, but at least, we know that we have no cases now on the island, but at the same time is very much present. So a number of federations have indicated that they will resume training, they will resume play in their various disciplines sometime next week. Many are now working through the little tweaks in terms of how they're going to conduct these courses, conduct these elements of play. Nobody has stepped up to say as yet, as I would have said last week, about competitions resuming. So the leagues and all of the tournaments are still pretty much on hold. I expect that within next week or two, all goes well, that we might see some resumption across the board. But generally speaking, sport in the island has a total green light to resume. It's now left to the various federations to make their decisions as to what safety protocols are put in place to ensure that the athletes, fans, and officials are well protected if they do resume as normal. So sports is really at a standstill. What I can tell you though is that the National Sports Council, who is responsible really for managing sports locally at the community level and at the school level, they have come up with a program called Beige Fit Barbados, where they are going to go around the island at various venues within the communities on evenings between 4 p.m. and 6 p.m. and get the community back involved in getting active and exercising and participating in sports. And this is being done across the 11 parishes on the island between June 29th right down to August the 7th. So you can expect to see persons being able to come out and participate again in sports and exercising, etc., under the guidance of our national coaches, because the National Sports Council has a number of coaches assigned to them who actually work with the National Sports Council across the various disciplines, and they're responsible for training and developing sport at the local level. So it's now gone into the community to kind of revive sport after such a long layoff due to COVID-19 restrictions. So we're trying to brush off the rust within the community and see if it can spill over to the associations, getting a lot more confidence in getting the sports up and running again. So that's it here on the local level. Of course, much focus is on England and the West Indies team, and we Barbadians are looking really keenly at the West Indies side because our Barbadian players within that unit have actually started to show that they are gunning to make the final 11 cut when the first test starts on July the 8th. In particular, we had Raymond Reefer, who in the first warm-up match snagged 5 wickets in 11 balls. So already he's saying, look, I am one to pick when you need your final 11. There's also Shamar Brooks with the bat, Craig Brathwaite with the bat. So our Barbadian cricketers are out in England with the West Indies team, really showing that they are ready to do battle with the English, and they look really well. They look really fit and ready to go. They're in good nick. So to our Barbadian jockeys, they are playing their trade in Canada, as I would have said over the weeks. Patrick Husbands and Kevin Nichols over at Woodbine, they enjoyed victories over the weekend, and Antonio Whitehall at Asimbo Downs, he is now top of the jockey standings by a good mile. He has about a 6 to 7 win lead over the rest of the field. So our local jockeys are actually doing wonders over in Canada. So basically, as I said, Barbados is quiet sports wise. I think this is the calm before the storm comes, and when I say storm, I mean getting back out there and getting those competitions going. A number of competitions would have been curbed because of COVID-19. Interestingly, this also is the lead up to what will be our crop over season, but of course crop over was cancelled for 2020, and crop over is our big festival where we celebrate the end of sugarcane season, and we have all of our fetes and parties, and we culminate usually with our big Kadooment Day, which is the street parade with our costumes. However, that is not going to happen this year, and I think what might happen is that sports that will usually halt between this time, which is between late June to the first week in August, may not be able to utilize this time given that there is no crop over. So we're just looking forward to see how the federations are going to maneuver through this reopening. So quiet for now, but I expect to be giving you a lot more action coming up within the next few weeks. So once again, my blessings from Barbados to Bermuda, and thank you for having me again on the program.
Good day, Earl Boston. This is Vernon A. Springer from the island of Antigua and Barbuda, the home of Sir Vivian Isaac Alexander Richards, national hero. It's an exciting time for Sir Viv as Liverpool are crowned English Football League champions, the first in 30 years. And guess what? The list is long. Sir Viv is a phenomenal guest and a supporter of the Liverpool Football Club. So too is Billy Doctroff from Dominica, a former international referee and umpire. And we want to say congratulations to all of the Liverpool fans in the entire Eastern Caribbean and all around the world. You have done it. Congratulations, Liverpool. Now let's see what's going to be happening down the road. Will Liverpool continue this dynasty? We got to wait and see in terms of what's going to be happening. On the sporting scene around the world, we know the Black Lives Movement continues to transcend throughout the entire world. And the West Indies senior cricket team, which is in England, getting ready for that important Wisden Trophy series against England, they are making their contribution and they are making their mark. And Jason Holder has indicated that they are going to be supporting the Black Lives Matter movement by wearing it on their collars. So that is also a big move. We have to wait and see what the England and Wales Cricket Board players are going to be coming up with. But those are two major movements in terms of what is going to be happening. What else is happening around the Caribbean? Well, we know that the T10 tournament has started in St. Lucia. We know Trinidad and Tobago is gradually opening their borders, and the CPL. The final draft has taken place. Everything is behind closed doors, so we haven't really heard what is happening. But we know that there are a couple of Indian players who are going to be in the CPL for 2020. Got some players from Pakistan, from England. We're hearing some big names to the grapevine. Owen Morgan, you name it. A whole lots of names. So we just waiting on the final list to see what is going to be happening. But what we can say to you is that the CPL 2020 is going to be in Trinidad and Tobago. And look out, that is going to be an exciting. Here in Antigua and Barbuda, the Antigua and Barbuda Cricket Association, they organized a forum with Dr. Thwaites to kind of begin to speak to coaches on the island to find out how best we could be able to start practicing. And so that has also been a good move. I see good news for Bermuda cricket because they're coming back on stream. So that's a good thing. So Barbados is also relaxed. They've lifted their curfew. St. Kitts and Nevis, they haven't gone to that level yet, so we got to wait and see in terms of what's happening. Elections in Anguilla, and so maybe the landscape might change for sports. But in terms of everything else around the Caribbean, we're just waiting to see what is going to be happening on the global stage. You know that the NBA is going to kick off in July. You know that the MLS Football League is also going to kick off. And so you know, once everything begins to bubble around the world, the same pattern is going to follow through in Jamaica. Hey, but in the meantime, got to remember, got to stay safe, follow the protocols, and most of all, remember to put up your hand and to kneel. Black Lives Matter. Vernon A. Springer for Earl Basden and Island Sports News. Hey, trust me, it's going to be a great time coming up for sports this week.
Well, you know, when Vernon was talking, I got a glimpse of all three of you, and I know the biting of the lips to make comment on what he was talking about with Liverpool. Jason, I know you. I saw you rocking back and forth. You still look like you're rocking back and forth, like you're chomping at the bit to say something. But what's your thoughts on Mr. Springer's opinion of the Liverpool Football Club and them winning the Premiership for the first time?
Well, let me start off by saying thank you, Mr. Springer, for that report. Now, the next line I would say, with all due respect, so you know what comes after that, right? When anybody says with all due respect, Mr. Springer, I love your enthusiasm, but for the Liverpool Football Club, they have been around for many years. This is the first Premier title in 30 years. Last time they won a Premier title wasn't even called the Premier League title. It's been 30 years in the making. You mentioned a dynasty. I mean, Leicester, they have the same amount of Premier League cups as Leicester. You didn't think they're a dynasty? That's what I got to say.
Well, Mr. Moreno, you've been laughing too. So, what's your take on Mr. Springer's opinion of Liverpool and the dynasty?
I really can't say anything because my beloved Spurs, our trophy cabinet remains empty. Jason, keep quiet.
Cabinet?
Jason, keep quiet, please. All right, Ms. Bad, you don't say anything either. Guna that you are. My thing with Mr. Springer is Basden, Earl. I'm sorry, I like Jason says, I admire the guy's enthusiasm and his drive, and he really is, and he really is enthusiastic about what he's doing. But that dynasty talk, brother, like Jason says, it's got to go. And please stop calling my brother Basden, please.
Let me get the Arsenal point of view from Mr. Springer's talk.
At the end of the day, when a new season comes, every team has the same opportunity to win. So we'll wait until next season to see if it's a beginning of a so-called dynasty. Because with Arsenal being the only invincible team still, we see what happened to Arsenal. So any season is anybody's league to win. Any team's league to win.
Well, one thing is
she's so pragmatic.
By you making that comment, the guys in the corner have remained quiet.
The voice of pragmatism.
Well, we'll be back with more Islandstats Sports Show after this message from our sponsor. Well, guys, over the last weekend, we saw the return of golf played at the Port Royal Golf Course with the Bermuda Amateur Stroke Play Championships. 3 days of lovely weather. Well, 2 days of unbelievable weather, and then the final day we had a bit of a breeze. But for Tarika Wallacram and Eric West, two players with two different backgrounds that have come back. Tarika had an accident maybe 2 years ago, which left her with 2 broken legs. She had to learn how to walk again, had other injuries as well, but she's been able to get back on her feet and obviously win the ladies division. Eric has been off doing his, getting his PhD, hasn't been playing much golf. He lost his father last year and his stepmom, but he's now come back, played in a tournament. He's interested in playing in the qualification tournament for the Bermuda Championships, which will take place in in October and November. But just to see these two come out on top, I think is a remarkable feat for them and the sport, because now kind of new people have put themselves back out there to help the sport. But just hearing what Tarika has gone through as an athlete, Stacey, you were injured in competition when we were in South Africa, breaking your thumb, coming back from an injury during international competition or any type of competition. How challenging is it? And what you had to go through, not saying that you would have had to go through the same thing as Tarika, but those type of injuries are mentally as well as physical, aren't they?
Yeah, they definitely are. I also I've torn my ACL, so ruptured my ACL couple of years prior to that whole cricket incident, but ruptured my ACL playing football in college. It definitely plays on your mind tremendously. You have to be that strong-minded individual when there's negative thoughts coming in of whether you're going to be able to continue at the same level of performance that you were prior to injury. You have to keep that mental strength of attaching yourself to that positive and being consistent with your rehab. From my experience, especially with my ACL, I slept in the athletic training room, during college when I had classes. If I was on break, I slept in there to make sure that I was there throughout my rehab and doing extra things to make sure I rehabbed completely. In the cricket realm, after we came back from South Africa, making sure that I went to my physio appointments at the hospital. The fortunate thing in that realm, I guess you could say, after that tournament, it pretty much wasn't that much women's cricket to be played after that whole situation. With the experience of being in South Africa and the experience of coming back with the cricket team. But you have to always stick with that positive mindset that you will be able to play at the performance level that you were prior to. If not, that is the breaking point in an athlete's career. The moment they start with the negative thoughts and attaching themselves to those negative thoughts.
Jason, I want to come to you because you've overcome quite a bit of stuff and challenge that you faced as when you were a little younger. Take us through how you kind of challenged yourself to get to where you are today.
That belief. I mean, when the whole room around you telling you that you're never going to play again, and you're never going to do this again, you're never going to do that again. If you don't have that inner belief, those voices inside your head even get even louder. And that's the first thing. You almost have to be, I want to say, selfish to a sense where you block everybody out and I'm only going to think about what I'm going to do and how do I go about it and what it's going to take that I must do to make this happen. The other great thing that the difference is now and 30 odd years ago is the science. The science, remember, Earl, once upon a time, we just put some Match Me If You Can leaves on it. Wish for the best, I remember years ago, the entire life was playing and we got a couple of bruises. So Granny says, hey, spray some WD-40 on it. I'm like, huh? Well, it worked. But the science is a little bit different with these home remedies that we had back in the day. But the science is different because that was one of the things I learned while I was, rehabbing, and that's for a lot of patients. It's hard because when you hear of a doctor's outcome or what's going to come out from your injury, is always based off of somebody else's injury or something that happened to somebody else, or a paper or a journal that's something that was written on somebody else. Every human being is different. When it comes to pain, you might be able to take pain. I may not be able to take pain. There's so many different things. You may generate more white cells than the other person. So there's so many different things that come into play. And that's why I tell anybody, regardless what injury you have, go all out, because you never know. Sometimes you end up being better than you were before the injury.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We often hear of athletes that have life-changing injuries and overcome them and come back. Gary, I remember talking to you on several occasions that you were taught a lesson by your father about having to stay the course, be mentally strong, and when you remember back to those times, reflecting on them, it kind of it toughens you up, doesn't it?
It does, and it literally impacted every aspect of my life. People tend to think, oh, he's such a hard nose, this, that, the other, but it's just the environment that I grew up in and the lessons I was taught by my father. Nothing comes easy. You have to work hard for everything you want. Don't expect any favors and do your best all the time. Standards were set and you had to meet those standards. My sporting career wasn't anything to write home about. I tell people that the highlight of my sporting career is being hit in the river by Brian Lara on several occasions in one over. But like I said, the experiences coming up with my father as my football coach, one, and the lessons that were taught. One time I remember I was making off to a referee after the referee made a call. My father walked on the field, grabbed me by my shirt collar, made me apologize to the referee, took my boots, and that was the end of my season. That was not tolerated. It was not accepted. So the next season, and the next season, and the next season, to this day, I've never been disrespectful to a referee. I mean, my playing days were long over, but I've never been disrespectful to a referee after that because I knew what the consequences were. Unlike what I see now, and I try to tell my son, hey, you could argue with the referee as much as you want till the cows come home and the grass gets high and they have to cut it again. His decision is final and you could do nothing to change his mind. But these are the lessons that stick with you as an athlete. These things stick with you and they prepare you for life. And that is why I like sports so much. I think every young person, every young man, every young woman should have an opportunity to play at least on a recreational level because it builds character. It really, really does. And that is why I believe so much in young people being exposed to sport at some level to help with their development.
Well, we're well into the week of the COVID Tennis Open going on at the Fairmont Southampton. Recently concluded the other championship, but when we look at the fact that we have number 1 seed Kirsten Salters and number 2 seed Morgan Lightbourne, they'll hopefully look to get on the collision course for another repeat of the ladies final, and I know Morgan be chomping at the bit to get the better of Kirsten this time around. And of course, we have the likes of Tariq Simons. Tariq is the number 1 player. He's defeated Gavin Manders in 2 consecutive finals, and I know Gavin will be looking to make sure that it's not a three-peat. But Tariq, very calm, cool, and collective young man. I've been an admirer of his temperament. He's been down in the first set in both finals, 3-love, but managed to come back and win 6-4 in both finals first set. So it takes him a little while to get going, get over that mental part of Gavin. But this week is shaping up to be yet another good one. Juggler, you're into a lot of different sports, and I know tennis could be one of them. What's your thoughts with tennis being one of the first competitive sports to get back up and running in Bermuda?
It's perfect. It's perfect for the social distancing. I mean, players on the other side of the court. They're going to run on and jump and high five each other during the match. So it's perfect. No, I think it's great. Once again, it's see one thing about sports, whether it's any wars or anything that happens in the community, sometimes it's just that little distraction of not thinking of the doom and gloom every day. And sports gives you that upliftment. You actually see the underdog come to as a winner. I say it all the time. Sports is the real reality TV. You never know what's going to happen. It's never been scripted. As much as you may think somebody's the number one on any given day, he could be beaten. So with tennis coming back, and not just tennis coming back, the numbers that tennis is creating right now, I think is just a positive look on a whole. I just want to mention one thing about young Tariq, and I've spoken with him a few times, and I don't think he ever saw his father ride. Some of you guys may remember his father was a motocross rider, very steady rider. Wasn't, I won't say a great rider, but he was a steady rider, and he had a great temperament. And I see Tariq as that person. Like, it's not too much really gets to him when he plays. So even there's kind of a lot of great instruction down there at MTM, obviously with Coach Gavin, Coach Javon, and the likes, and everybody down there. And there's one big family down there. But once again, when you get, on the court, I'm going to beat you, Coach, and like you said, there's two on the trot. Let's see what happens.
States, when you're a multi-person sport, you will try anything at least twice. Am I correct?
Or 3 times or 4.
Okay, all right. You've obviously played tennis. I saw you at the tennis thing for the teachers, but tennis, you're using a lot of different parts of the body to kind of stay in play of tennis. What challenged you the most when you tried it? Getting the ball over.
Well, actually, tennis was the first sport I ever played before, picking up football and stuff like that. So tennis is definitely that full body exercise. The difficulty, I guess, was the consistency of the backhand for myself. We really didn't do the service in that, you couldn't play as competitive with the amount of space that we were allotted for our teachers, PD. But also, I'm very proud of Tariq because I used to teach him at Purvis, and he was first getting into tennis and stuff like that. So seeing his progress and his opportunity to go to overseas for a while and hearing his tennis skills a bit more while he was overseas, and then he, came back home to his other hand. But it's great to see his progress because he's always been that child of mindset of being focused and determined. And definitely his skill level in all sports is actually there as well. He's one of those multi-talented athletes as well. That was basically.
Yeah, one sport that was played this weekend was flag football. Not much social distancing there, rather trying and challenging. Gary, a lot of these sports look to get going again, but give us your thought on a sport like flag football. There's no tackling, but there's a lot of hands-on.
I mean, how are you going to enforce social distancing in a sport like that, or even football? I mean, it's just impossible. So, I mean, what is it you can say, really? These games are just going to have to be played in the manner that they're meant to be played. I mean, like you said, there is no tackling. It's just grabbing the flag and, running to catch the ball and for the touchdown and however it's played, because I don't know much about flag football. But again, there is that close interaction. You can't avoid that. So what you going to do? I mean, really, what are you going to do to prevent anything untoward from happening? You just have to trust that the other person has been practicing what needs to be done before coming into the game, just like what's being done in the Premier League and the Bundesliga and so on. I mean, it's not at that level, but the same basic principles will have to be employed. Ensuring that you wear your mask, ensuring that you wash your hands as often as possible, or use some sort of a stringent, some sort of alcohol-based cleaner to clean your hands and such. So I think that's all that you really can do. And once the football season starts back here, it's going to be the same thing. So what do you do?
Well, folks, we've come to the end of this Wednesday, July 1st, phase 4 of the government's strategy to get us back up into operation. And obviously, next week we'll be a week into it, and we can see how things have developed and what sports, because we should be hearing a lot more sports looking to make the return once all the phase 4 stuff is finalized, and hopefully very soon we'll have a cricket schedule and we can go over that, and we look forward to yet another sporty week. So I want to thank you all for joining me, and see you all next Wednesday, July 7th, right here on the Islandstats Sports Show.
Okay, Mr. Basden.
Nice to see you, Gary.
Always a pleasure to see you, Stacey. I can't say about the guy above you.
Well, it's all right. You know how it goes.
You will be back next week.
Just for that, I'm going to show up. Make sure I show up.
Good night, everyone.